team, audiovisual team, for painstakingly putting this high-tech arrangement together so that people can watch it later or now online. And thank you to everybody again who's joined us here in the live studios at Bhaktivedanta Ashram at Govardhan Hill, Dangati. We're beginning today our reading of the Madhya Lila of the Sri Caitanya Charitamrita. We're going to read at a pace where we can, Krishna willing, finish the Caitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila by the time we have to leave, which is, I think, on the 19th. 17th. It's the last day we have here. So we have just a few days. And if necessary, as we've done in previous years to finish, we can also augment with the hour at the Bhagavatam class to continue the reading. So don't feel any trepidation. We will finish. Krishna willing. Today, with our folded hands and bowed head to His Divine Grace, Swami Prabhupāda, who worked in heroic ways to bring the Sri Charitamrita to the world, and to all his disciples who heeded his request to publish it in 2 months. All those who worked on it then and afterwards to get it to where it is now, our humble obeisances. Also, there are a couple of versions. Some are older, some are newer. You may notice a slight variation in a few words here or there, which is no need to panic. It just means that there's a process that the books have gone through at various times to come to the state they're in now. I'll begin with the introduction at the beginning of Madhya Lila, Volume 1. Sri Caitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is the principal work on the life and teachings of Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu. Caitanya Mahāprabhu is the pioneer of a great social and religious movement that began in India about 500 years ago, and that has directly and indirectly influenced the subsequent course of religious and philosophical thinking, not only in India but throughout the world. That Sri Krishna Chaitanya's influence has spread so far is due in large part to the efforts of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, the present work's translator and commentator, and the founder and Acharya, spiritual guide, of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Caitanya Mahāprabhu is thus a figure of great historical significance. However, our conventional method of historical analysis, that of seeing a man as a product of his times, fails here. For Sri Krishna Caitanya is a personality who transcends the limited scope of historical settings. At a time when, in the West, man was directing his explorative spirit towards studying the structure of the physical universe and circumnavigating the world in search of new oceans and continents, Sri Krishna Caitanya in the East was inaugurating and masterminding a revolution directed inward toward a scientific understanding of the highest knowledge of man's spiritual nature. The chief historical sources for the life of Sri Krishna Caitanya are the Katachas, diaries kept by Murari Gupta and Swarup Damodar Goswami. Murari Gupta, a physician and close associate of Sri Krishna Chaitanya's, recorded extensive notes on the first 24 years of his life, culminating in initiation into renounced sannyas. The events of the rest of Caitanya Mahaprabhu's 48 years were recorded in the diary of Swarup Damodar Goswami, another of his intimate associates. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is divided into 3 sections called Leelas, a word that literally means pastimes. Adi Leela, the early period, Madhya Leela, the middle period, and Antya Leela, the final period. The notes of Murari Gupta form the basis of the Adi Leela, and Swarup Damodar's diary provides the details for the Madhya and Antya Leelas. The first 12 chapters of the Adi Leela constitute the preface for the entire work. By referring to Vedic scriptural evidence, Krishnadas Kaviraj establishes that Caitanya Mahaprabhu is the avatara, incarnation of God for the age of Kali, the current epoch, which began 5,000 years ago and is characterized by materialism, hypocrisy, and dissension. The author also proves that Caitanya Mahaprabhu is identical to Lord Krishna and explains that he descends to liberally grant the fallen souls of this degraded age pure love of God by propagating Sankirtan, literally congregational glorification of God, especially by organizing massive public chanting of the Mahamantra, great chant for deliverance. In addition, in the 12th chapter preface, Krishnadas Kaviraj reveals the esoteric purpose of Lord Chaitanya's appearance in the world, describes his co-avatars and principal devotees, and summarizes his teachings. In the remaining portion of the Adi Leela, chapters 13 through 17, the author briefly recounts Lord Chaitanya's divine birth and his life until he accepted the renounced order. This account includes his childhood miracles, schooling, marriage, and early philosophical confrontations, as well as his organization of a widespread Sankirtan movement and his civil disobedience against the repression of the Muslim government. The Madhya Leela, the longest of the 3 divisions, narrates in detail Lord Chaitanya's extensive and eventful travels throughout India as a renounced mendicant, teacher, philosopher, spiritual preceptor, and mystic. During this period of 6 years, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu transmits his teachings to his principal disciples. He debates and converts many of the renowned philosophers and theologians of his time, including Shankarites, Buddhists, and Muslims, and incorporates their many thousands of followers and disciples into his own burgeoning numbers. The author also includes in this section a dramatic account of Caitanya Mahaprabhu's miraculous activities at the giant Ratha Yātrā car festival in Jagannath Puri, Orissa. The Antya Leela concerns the last 18 years of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's manifest presence, spent in seclusion near the famous Jagannath temple at Puri. During these final years, Sri Krishna Chaitanya drifted deeper and deeper into trances of spiritual ecstasy unparalleled in all of religious and literary history, Eastern or Western. His perpetual and ever-increasing religious beatitude, graphically described in the eyewitness accounts of Swarup Damodar Goswami, his constant companion during this period, clearly defied the investigative and descriptive abilities of modern psychologists and phenomenologists of religious experience. The author of this great classic, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, born around the beginning of the 16th century, was a disciple of Raghunath Das Goswami, a confidential follower of Caitanya Mahaprabhu's. Raghunath Das, a renowned ascetic saint, heard and memorized all the activities of Caitanya Mahaprabhu told to him by Swarup Damodar Goswami. After the passing away of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and Swarup Damodar, Raghunath Das, unable to bear the pain of separation from these objects of his complete devotion, traveled to Vrindavan, intending to commit suicide by jumping from Govardhan hill. In Vrindavan, however, he encountered Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Sanatana Goswami, two of the most confidential disciples of Caitanya Mahaprabhu. They convinced him to give up his planned suicide and impelled him to reveal to them the spiritually inspiring events of Lord Chaitanya's later life. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami endowed him with a full comprehension of the transcendental life of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. By this time, contemporary and near-contemporary scholars and devotees had already written several biographical works on the life of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. These included Sri Chaitanya Charita by Murari Gupta, Chaitanya Mangal by Lochan Das Thakur, and Chaitanya Bhagavata. This latter work by Vrindavan Das Thakur, who was then considered the principal authority on Sri Chaitanya's life, was highly revered. While composing his important work, Vrindavan Das, fearing that it would become too voluminous, avoided elaborately describing many of the events of Caitanya Mahaprabhu's life, particularly the latter ones. Anxious to hear of these later pastimes, the devotees in Vrindavan requested Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, whom they respected as a great saint and scholar, to compose a book narrating these episodes in detail. Upon this request, and with the permission and blessings of the Madan Mohan deity of Vrindavan, he began compiling Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, which, due to its literary excellence and philosophical thoroughness, is today universally regarded as the foremost work on the life and profound teachings of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami commenced work on the text at a very advanced age and in failing health, as he vividly describes in the text itself. Quote, "I have now become too old and disturbed by invalidity. While writing, my hands tremble. I cannot remember anything, nor can I see or hear properly. Still I write, and this is a great wonder. That he completed the greatest literary gem of medieval India under such debilitating conditions is surely one of the wonders of literary history. As mentioned above, this English translation and commentary is the work of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, the world's most distinguished teacher of Indian religious and philosophical thought. Srila Prabhupada's commentary is based upon two Bengali commentaries, one by his guru, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami, the eminent Vedic scholar, teacher, and saint who predicted, quote, "The time will come when the people of the world will learn Bengali to read Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita," and the other by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's father, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who pioneered the propagation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings in the modern era. Srila Prabhupada is himself a disciplic descendant of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he is the first scholar to execute systematic English translations of the major works of Sri Krishna Chaitanya's followers. His consummate Bengali and Sanskrit scholarship and intimate familiarity with the precepts of Sri Krishna Chaitanya are a fitting combination that eminently qualifies him to present this important classic to the English-speaking world. The ease and clarity with which he expounds upon difficult philosophical concepts enable even a reader totally unfamiliar with Indian religious tradition to understand and appreciate this profound and monumental work. The entire text, with commentary presented in 9 lavishly illustrated volumes by the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, represents a contribution of major importance to the intellectual, cultural, and spiritual life of contemporary man. The publishers. Editor's notes. Revisions in this edition are based on the transcripts of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada's original dictation of the translations, word meanings, and purports of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. to whomever wrote that. Hare Krishna. If I had to guess, I would say it would have been now I'm forgetting his name. It'll come back to me. Huh? Shubhananda, that's right. Sounds like Shubhananda. Chapter 1, the later pastimes of Lord Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu. Is everybody ready? Can everybody outside hear? Okay. In this chapter, there's a summary description of all the pastimes performed by Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu during the middle period of his activities, as well as the 6 years at the end of his activities. All of these are described in brief. There's also a description of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstasy that occurred when he recited the verse beginning Ya Komara Hara, as well as a description of how that ecstasy was explained in the verse beginning Priya Soyam Krishna by Srila Rupa Goswami. Because he wrote that verse, Srila Rupa Goswami was specifically blessed by the Lord. There's also a description of the many books written by Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Sanatana Goswami, and Srila Jiva Goswami. There's also a description of the meeting between Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Rupa Goswami, and Srila Sanatana Goswami in the village known as Ramakeli. Text 1. Even a person with no knowledge can immediately acquire all knowledge simply by the benediction of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, I am praying to the Lord for his causeless mercy upon me. Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityanandau Sahodito Godo Dai Pushpavanto Chitro Shandau Tamo Nudau. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are like the sun and moon. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Gauda to dissipate the darkness of ignorance and thus wonderfully bestow benediction upon all. Glory to the all-merciful Radha and Madan Mohan. I am lame and ill-advised, yet they are my directors, and their lotus feet are everything to me. In a temple of jewels in Vrindavan, underneath a desire tree, Sri Sri Radha Govinda, served by their most confidential associates, sit upon an effulgent throne. I offer my humble obeisances unto them. May Gopinathji, who attracts all the gopis with the song of his flute, and who has begun the most melodious rasa dance on the bank of the Jamuna in Vamshivata, be merciful upon us. All glories unto Sri Gaurahari, who is an ocean of mercy. All glories unto you, the son of Shachi-Devi, for you are the only friend of all fallen souls. All glories unto Lord Nityananda and Advaita Prabhu, and all glories unto all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya, headed by Srivas Thakur. I have previously described in synopsis the Adi Lila, initial pastimes, which have already been fully described by Vrindavan Das Thakur. I have therefore given only a synopsis of those incidents, and whatever specifics were to be related have already been given in that synopsis. To describe the unlimited pastimes of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is not possible, but I now wish to relate the chief incidents and give a synopsis of those pastimes occurring at the end. I shall describe only in synopsis that portion which Vrindavan Das Thakur has described very elaborately in his book Chaitanya Mangal. Whatever incidents are outstanding, however, I shall later elaborate. Actually, the authorized compiler of the pastimes of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is Srila Vrindavan Das, the incarnation of Vyasadeva. Only upon his orders am I trying to chew the remnants of food that he has left. Placing his lotus feet upon my head in great devotion. I shall now describe in summary the Lord's final pastimes. For 24 years, Lord Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu remained at home, and whatever pastimes he performed during that time are called the Adi Lila. At the end of his 24th year, in the month of Magh, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, the Lord accepted the renounced order of life, sannyas. After accepting sannyas, Lord Chaitanya remained within this material world for another 24 years. Within this period, whatever pastimes he enacted are called the Shesha Lila, or pastimes occurring at the end. The final pastimes of the Lord occurring in his last 24 years are called the Madhya, middle, and Antya, final. All the devotees of the Lord refer to his pastimes according to these divisions. For 6 years of the last 24, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu traveled all over India, from Jagannath Puri to Bengal and from Cape Comorin to Vrindavan. All the pastimes performed by the Lord in those places are known as the Madhya Lila, and whatever pastimes were performed after that are called the Antya Lila. The pastimes of the Lord are therefore divided into 3 periods: the Adi Lila, Madhya Lila, and Antya Lila. I shall now very elaborately describe the Madhya Lila. For 18 continuous years, Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu remained at Jagannath Puri, and through his personal behavior instructed all living entities in the mode of devotional service. Of these 18 years at Jagannath Puri, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu spent 6 years with his many devotees. By chanting and dancing, he introduced the loving service of the Lord. Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu sent Nityananda Prabhu from Jagannath Puri to Bengal, which is known as Gauda Desh, and Lord Nityananda Prabhu overflooded that country with transcendental loving service of the Lord. Sri Nityananda Prabhu is by nature very much inspired in rendering transcendental loving service to Lord Kṛṣṇa. Now, being ordered by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he distributed this loving service anywhere and everywhere. I offer innumerable obeisances unto the lotus feet of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, who is so kind that he spread the service of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu all over the world. Caitanya Mahaprabhu used to address Nityananda Prabhu as his elder brother, whereas Nityananda Prabhu addressed Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu as his Lord. Although Nityananda Prabhu is none other than Balaram himself, he nonetheless always thinks of himself as the eternal servant of Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Nityananda Prabhu requested everyone to serve Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, chant his glories, and utter his name. Nityananda Prabhu claimed that person to be his life and soul who rendered devotional service under Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. In this way, Srila Nityananda Prabhu introduced the cult of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu to everyone without discrimination. Even though the people were fallen souls and blasphemers, they were delivered by this process. Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu then sent the 2 brothers, Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Sanatana Goswami, to Vraj. By his order, they went to Sri Vrindavan Dham. After going to Vrindavan, the brothers preached devotional service and discovered many places of pilgrimage. They specifically initiated the service of Madan Mohan and Govindaji. Both Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami brought various scriptures to Vrindavan and collected the essence of these by compiling many scriptures on devotional service. In this way, they delivered all rascals and fallen souls. Who did they deliver? They delivered all rascals and fallen souls. Purport. Srila Srinivasacharya has sung, Nana Shastra Vichara Naika Nipuno Sadharma Samstapako Lokana Takarano Tribhuvane Manyo Sharanya Karo. Radha Krishna Padara Vinda Bhajana Nandena Mataliko. Vande Rupa Sanatano Raghuyago Shri Jiva Gopalako. Vande Rupa Sanatano Raghuyago Shri Jiva Gopalako. Shad Goswami Ashtakam Ki Jai. The 6 Goswamis, under the direction of Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Sanatana Goswami, studied various Vedic literatures and picked up the essence of them, the devotional service of the Lord. This means that all the Goswamis wrote many scriptures on devotional service with the support of the Vedic literature. Devotional service is not a sentimental activity. The essence of Vedic knowledge is devotional service, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 15:15. Vedaishcha sarver ahameva vedya. All the Vedic literature aims at understanding Krishna, and how to understand Krishna through devotional service has been explained by Srila Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis, with evidence from all Vedic literatures. They have put it so nicely that even a rascal or a first-class fool can be delivered by devotional service under the guidance of the Goswamis. Who can be delivered by the guidance of the Goswamis? Even a rascal first-class fool. There are different classes of fools. Text 34. The Goswamis carried out the preaching work of devotional service on the basis of an analytical study of all confidential Vedic literatures. This was in compliance with the order of Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu. Thus one can understand the most confidential devotional service of Vrindavan. Purport. This proves that bona fide devotional service is based on the conclusions of the Vedic literature. It is not based on the type of sentiment exhibited by the Prakrita Sahajas. The Prakrita Sahajas do not consult the Vedic literatures, and they are debauchees, woman hunters, and smokers of ganja. Sometimes they give a theatrical performance and cry for the Lord with tears in their eyes. Of course, all scriptural conclusions are washed off by these tears. The Prakrita Sahajas do not realize that they are violating the orders of Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu, who specifically said that to understand Vrindavan and the pastimes of Vrindavan, one must have sufficient knowledge of the Shastras, Vedic literatures. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.12, Bhaktya Shruta Grihitaya. This means that devotional service is acquired from Vedic knowledge. Tachchadadhana munaya. Devotees who are actually serious attain bhakti, scientific devotional service, by hearing Vedic literatures, bhaktya shruta grihitaya. It is not that one should create something out of sentimentality, become a sahaja, and advocate such concocted devotional service. However, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur considered such sahajas to be more favorable than the impersonalists, who are hopelessly atheistic. The impersonalists have no idea of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The position of the sahajas is far better than that of the Mayavadi sannyasis. Although the sahajas do not think much of Vedic literature, they nonetheless have accepted Lord Kṛṣṇa as the Supreme Lord. Unfortunately, they mislead others from authentic devotional service. Text 35. Some of the books compiled by Srila Sanatana Goswami were the Hari Bhakti Vilas, Brihat Bhagavatamrita, Dashama Tipani, and Dashama Charita. Purport. In the first wave of the book known as Bhakti Ratnakara, it is said that Sanatana Goswami understood Srimad Bhagavatam by thorough study and explained it in his commentary known as Vaishnava Toshani. All the knowledge that Sri Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami directly acquired from Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu was broadcast all over the world by their expert service. Sanatana Goswami gave his Vaishnava Toshani commentary to Srila Jiva Goswami for editing, and Srila Jiva Goswami edited this under the name of Laghu Toshani. Whatever he immediately put down in writing was finished in the year 1476 Shaka. That's AD 1554. Srila Jiva Goswami completed the Laghu Toshani in the year Shakabda 1504, AD 1582. The subject matter of the Hari Bhakti Vilas by Sri Sanatana Goswami was collected by Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami and is known as a Vaishnava Smriti. The Vaishnava Smriti Grantha was finished in 20 chapters known as Vilasas. In the first Vilas there is a description of how a relationship is established between the spiritual master and the disciple. And mantras are explained. In that second Vilas, the process of initiation is described. In the third Vilas, the methods of Vaishnava behavior are given, with emphasis on cleanliness, constant remembrance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the chanting of the mantras given by the initiating spiritual master. In the fourth Vilas are descriptions of samskara, the reformatory method, tilak, the application of 12 tilakas on 12 places on the body, mudra, marks on the body, mala, chanting with beads, and Guru Puja, worship of the spiritual master. In the fifth Vilas, one is instructed on how to make a place to sit for meditation. And there are descriptions of breathing exercises, meditation, and worship of the Shalagram Shila, representation of Lord Vishnu. In the sixth Vilas, the required practices for inviting the transcendental form of the Lord and bathing him are given. In the seventh Vilas, one is instructed on how to collect flowers used for the worship of Lord Vishnu. In the eighth Vilas, there is a description of the deity and instructions on how to set up incense, light lamps, make offerings, dance, play music, beat drums, garland the deities, offer prayers and obeisances, and offer prayers and obeisances and counteract offenses. In the ninth Vilas, there are descriptions about collecting tulsi leaves, offering oblations to forefathers according to Vaishnava rituals, and offering food. In the 10th Vilas, there are descriptions of the devotees of the Lord, Vaishnavas or saintly persons. In the 11th Vilas, there are elaborate descriptions of deity worship and the glories of the holy name of the Lord. One is instructed on how to chant the holy name of the deity, and there are discussions about offenses committed while chanting the holy name, along with methods for getting relief from such offenses. There are also descriptions of the glories of devotional service and the surrendering process. In the 12th Vilas, Ekadashi is described. In the 13th Vilas, fasting is discussed, as well as observance of the Mahadwadashi ceremony. In the 14th Vilas, different duties for different months are outlined. In the 15th Vilas, there are instructions on how to observe Ekadashi fasting without even drinking water. There are also descriptions of branding the body with symbols of Vishnu, discussions of Chaturmasya observations during the rainy season, and discussions of Janmashtami, Parshvaikadashi, Shravana Dwadashi, Ram Navami, and Vijay Dashami. The 16th Vilas discusses duties to be observed in the month of Kartik, October-November, or the Damodar month, or Urja, when lamps are offered to the deity in the deity room or above the temple. There are also descriptions of the Govardhan Puja and Ratha Yātrā. The 17th Vilas discusses preparations for deity worship, Mahamantra chanting, and the process of japa. In the 18th Vilas, the different forms of Sri Vishnu are described. The 19th Vilas discusses the establishment of the deity and the rituals observed in bathing the deity before installation. The 20th Vilas discusses the construction of temples, referring to those constructed by great devotees. The details of the Hari Bhakti Vilas Grantha are given by Sri Kaviraj Goswami in the Madhya Lila 24.329 through 345. The descriptions given in those verses by Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami are actually a description of those portions compiled by Gopal Bhatta Goswami. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the regulative principles of devotional service compiled by Gopal Bhatta Goswami do not strictly follow our Vaishnava principles. Actually, Gopal Bhatta Goswami collected only a summary of the elaborate descriptions of Vaishnava regulative principles from the Hari Bhakti Vilas. It is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's opinion, however, that to follow the Hari Bhakti Vilas strictly is to actually follow the Vaishnava rituals in perfect order. He claims that the Smarta Samaj, which is strictly followed by caste brahmanas, has influenced portions that Gopal Bhatta Goswami collected from the original Hari Bhakti Vilas. It is therefore very difficult to find out Vaishnava directions from the book of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. It is better to consult the commentary made by Sanatana Goswami himself for the Hari Bhakti Vilas, under the name of Dig Darshani Tika. Some say that the same commentary was compiled by Gopinath Puja Adhikari, who was engaged in the service of Sri Radha Ramandanaji, and who happened to be one of the disciples of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Sri Radha Ramanaji. Regarding the Brihat Bhagavatamrita, there are two parts, both of which deal with the discharge of devotional service. The first part is an analytical study of devotional service, in which there is also a description of different planets, including the earth, the heavenly planets, Brahmaloka and Vaikuntha Loka. There are also descriptions of the devotees, including intimate devotees, most intimate devotees, and complete devotees. The second part describes the glories of the spiritual world known as Goloka, Mahatmya, Nirupana, as well as the process of renunciation of the material world. It also describes real knowledge, devotional service, the spiritual world, love of Godhead, attainment of life's destination, and the bliss of the world. In this way, there are 7 chapters in each part, 14 chapters in all. The Dashama Tippani is a commentary on the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Another name for this commentary is Brihat Vaishnav Toshani Tika. In the Bhakti Ratnakara, it is said that the Dashama Tippani was finished in 1476 Shakabda, AD 1554. Text 36. Everyone okay? Yes. Better than okay. Outside People's Party? You okay? We have already given the names of 4 books compiled by Sanatana Goswami. Similarly, Srila Rupa Goswami has also compiled many books which no one can even count. No one can count them. I shall therefore enumerate the chief books compiled by Srila Rupa Goswami. He has described the pastimes of Vrindavan in 100,000 verses. The books compiled by Sri Rupa Goswami include the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Vidagdha Madhava, Ujjvala Nilamani, and Lalita Madhava. Srila Rupa Goswami also compiled the Dana Keli Kaumudi, Stavamali, Leela Chanda, Padyavali, Govinda Virudavali, Mathura Mahatmya, and Nataka Varnana. Who can count the rest of the books headed by the Laghu Bhagavatamrita written by Srila Rupa Goswami? He has described the pastimes of Vrindavan in all of them. Before I go into the next purport, I'll just pause to see if there's any reflections, questions. Yes, Chinta Caitanya Prabhu.
This thing, the introduction, the beginning statement, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, is the principal work on the life and teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu. This particular, the status of this text as the principal work on the teachings of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahāprabhu was accepted by Bhaktivinoda Thakur and subsequently by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and by our Srila Prabhupada, because in the Gaudiya Vaishnava line, they don't accept this. They say that the Shat Sandarbhas by Jiva Goswami represent the principal teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this was the unique contribution of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and his followers.
And repeat again in one sentence what the unique contribution was.
That to accept Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita as our principal text on the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That's vital and helpful information.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. So the words rascal and first-class fools combined with sahajiyas and sentimentalists who are pretending. I just wanted you to elaborate a little bit about the link between rascal, first-class fool and the sahajiyas, who are, I guess, the rascals. And there are also broader meaning of the word rascal to include maybe.
All such labels can be given various divisions, as Krishna does in the Bhagavad Gita. Namam duskritinu muda prapadyante naradama maya pritagyana asuram bhavamashita. There Krishna is describing in categories different mentalities of people who are not accepting of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of God for various reasons. And there are other ways of describing people who are bereft of Sukriti or any Shraddha in Krishna. But very importantly, Krishna gives a very positive analysis of people, as does Shukadeva Goswami in the Srimad Bhagavatam. For instance, in the Gita, Krishna says, Chaturvidha bhajante mam jara sukritino arjuna arto jignasa artarti gyani cha bharatarshapha tesham gyani nitya yukta eka bhaktir vishishyate priyohit chartam aham cha mama priya udarak sarva evaite gyani tvat maiva me batam asita sahyuktatma ma mevam utamam gatim. In describing how there's four kinds of pious people, and they're pious because even though they are materialistic for one reason or another, except for the Gyanis who is referring to devotees in that context, they have some need or want they're bringing to the Lord, but the Lord accepts them. He says they're all dear to me. Udarak, they're all, Udarak means like, they're all good people. And in the Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami says, Kirata hunandra pulunda pulukasha bira sumba yavana kasaraya yene chapapari arapashrayashraya shudyanti tasmai prabhavishnave namaha. He names all kinds of people who everyone else considers to be lost causes, and says that all of them can become purified by devotional service. And in Kali Yuga, Maya mrigam tayitayipsitam anvadavad. Lord Chaitanya is the patron saint of lost causes, because it says there by Karabhajana Muni in the verse Jayam Sada Paribhavagnam Abhishtadoham Tirtasparam Shiva Varinchi Nutam Sharanyam Mayamrigam tayita yepsitman ambadavad. Vande Mahapurushate Charanadavindam, that Lord Chaitanya used to chase after them. He came in Kali Yuga because people were so fallen, they couldn't take advantage of Krishna when he came. Prabhupada says in one lecture, only a handful of people could understand. So he came back in Kali Yuga to give the best thing, even to the first-class fools and rascals. And the story of ISKCON, it would be good to somebody curate all the stories of first-class fools and rascals who became great devotees because they came in contact with Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. It's a great subject matter. Rascalism, rascaldom, rascality. Anything from the outside people's party? Okay, we'll stand up just for 1 second. 3 syllables. Go Ranga. It's actually 4. Go Ranga. Hare Krishna. Continuing. So one thing, okay. Here we are, continuing of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 1. We're at text 38, if I'm not in... No, we're at text number 41. Who can count the rest of the books headed by Laghu Bhagavatamrita, written by Srila Rupa Goswami? He has described the pastimes of Vrindavan in all of them. Purport, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati has given a description of these books. The Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is a great book of instruction on how to develop devotional service to Lord Krishna and follow the transcendental process. It was finished in the year 1463 Shakabda, AD 1541. This book is divided into 4 parts. Purva Vibhag, Eastern Division, Dakshina Vibhag, Southern Division, Paschima Vibhag, Western Division, and Uttara Vibhag, Northern Division. In the Purva Vibhag, there is a description of the permanent development of devotional service, the general principles of devotional service, the execution of devotional service, ecstasy in devotional service, and ultimately, the attainment of love of Godhead are described. In this way, there are 4 laharis, waves, in this division of the ocean of the nectar of devotion. In the Dakshina Vibhag, Southern Division, there is a general description of the mellow relationship called the Bhakti Ras, which is derived from devotional service. There are also descriptions of the stages known as Vaibhava, Anubhava, Sattvika, Vyabhachari, and Sthayi Bhava, all on this high platform of devotional service. Thus, there are 5 waves in the Dakshina Vibhag division. In the Western Division, Paschima Vibhag, there is a description of the chief transcendental humors derived from devotional service. These are known as Mukhya Bhakti Rasa Nirupana, or attainment of the chief humors or feelings in the execution of devotional service. In that part, there is a description of devotional service in neutrality, further development in love and affection called servitude, further development in fraternity, further development in parenthood or parental love, and finally conjugal love between Krishna and his devotees. Thus there are 5 waves in the Western Division. In the Northern Division, Uttara Vibhag, there is a description of the indirect mellows of devotional service, namely devotional service in laughter, devotional service in wonder, and devotional service in chivalry, pity, anger, dread, and ghastliness. There are also mixing of mellows and the transgression of different humors. Thus there are 9 waves in this part. But this is but a brief outline of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. In the Vidagdha Madhava, The Vidagdhamadava is a drama of Lord Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. Srila Rupa Goswami finished this book in year 1454 Shakabda, AD 1532. The first part of this drama is called Venu Nada Vilas. The second part, Manmata Lekha. The third part, Radha Sangha. The fourth part, Venu Harana. The fifth part, Radha Prasadana. The sixth part, Sharad Vihara. And the seventh and last part, Gauri Vihara. There is also a book called Ujjvala Nilamani, a transcendental account of loving affairs that includes metaphor, analogy, and higher bhakti sentiments. Devotional service and conjugal love is described briefly in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, but it is very elaborately described in the Ujjvala Nilamani. This book describes different types of lovers, their assistants, and those who are very dear to Krishna. There is also a description of Srimati Radharani and other female lovers, as well as various group leaders, messengers, and the constant associates, as well as others who are very dear to Krishna, are all described. The book also relates how love of Krishna is awakened and describes the ecstatic situation, the devotional situation, permanent ecstasy, disturbed ecstasy, steady ecstasy, different positions of different dresses, feelings of separation, prior attraction, anger and attraction, varieties of loving affairs, separation from the beloved, meeting with the beloved, and both direct and indirect enjoyment between the lover and the beloved. All this has been very elaborately described. Similarly, the Lalita Madhava is a description of Krishna's pastimes in Dwarka. These pastimes were made into a drama, and the work was finished in the year 1459 Shakabda. The first part deals with festivities in the evening, the second with the killing of the Shankachuda, the third with maddened Srimati Radharani, the fourth with Radharani's proceeding toward Krishna, the fifth with the achievement of Chandravali, the sixth with the achievement of Lalita, the seventh with the meeting in Nava Vrindavan, the eighth with the enjoyment of Nava Vrindavan, the ninth with looking over pictures, and the 10th with complete satisfaction of the mind. Thus the entire drama is divided into 10 parts. The Laghu Bhagavatamrita is divided into 2 parts. The first is called the Nectar of Krishna, and the second, the Nectar of Devotional Service. The importance of Vedic evidence is stressed in the first part, and this is followed by a description of the original form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Sri Krishna, and descriptions of his pastimes and expansions in Shwamsha, personal forms, and Vibhinamsha. According to different absorptions, the incarnations are called Avesh and Tad Ekatma. The first incarnation is divided into 3 Purusha avatars, namely Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and Kshirodakshay Vishnu. Then there are the 3 incarnations of the modes of nature, namely Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara, Shiva. All the paraphernalia used in the service of the Lord is transcendental, beyond 3 qualities of this material world. There is also a description of 25 Leela avatars, namely Chatushana, the Kumaras, Narda, Varaha, Matsya, Yagya, Narayan, Rishi, Kapila, Dattatreya, Hayagriva, Hanksha, Prishnigarbha, Rishabha, Prithu, Nṛsiṃha, Kurma, Dhanvantari, Mohini, Vamana, Parusharam, Dasharati, Krishna Dvaipayana, Balaram, Vasudeva, Buddha, and Kalki. Can anybody remember all without looking? Bukaravinda, you can do it. No? There are also 14 incarnations of Manu. Get ready. Yagya, Vibhu, Satyasena, Hari, Vaikunta, Ajita, Vamana, Sarvabhauma, Rishabha, Vishvaksena, Dharmasetu, Sudama, Yogeshwara, and Brihadbhanu. There are also 4 incarnations for the 4 yugas, and their colors are described as white, red, blackish, and black, sometimes yellow, as in the case of Lord Caitanya Mahāprabhu. There are different types of millenniums and incarnations for these millenniums. The categories called Avesh, Prabhava, Vaibhava, and Para constitute different situations for the different incarnations. According to specific pastimes, the names are spiritually empowered. There are also descriptions of the difference between the powerful and the power and the inconceivable activities of the Supreme Lord. Sri Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, and no one is greater than him. He is the source of all incarnations. In the Laghu Bhagavatamrita, there are descriptions of his partial incarnations, a description of the impersonal Brahman effulgence, actually the bodily effulgence of Sri Krishna, the super excellence of Sri Krishna's pastimes as an ordinary human being with 2 hands and so forth. There is nothing to compare with the 2-armed form of the Lord. In the spiritual world, Vaikuntha Jagat, there is no distinction between the owner of the body and the body itself. In the material world, the owner of the body is called the soul, and the body is called a material manifestation. In the Vaikuntha world, however, there is no such distinction. Lord Sri Krishna is unborn, and his appearance as an incarnation is perpetual. Krishna's pastimes are divided into 2 parts, manifest and unmanifest. For example, when Krishna takes his birth within this material world, his pastimes are considered to be manifest. However, when he disappears, one should not think that he is finished, for his pastimes are going on in an unmanifest form. Varieties of humors, however, are enjoyed by the devotees and Lord Krishna during his manifest pastimes. After all, his pastimes in Mathura, Vrindavan, and Dwarka are eternal and going on perpetually somewhere in some part of the universe. Amazing, Prabhupada put so much into these purports. Sri Rupa Goswami's nephew, Srila Jiva Goswami, has compiled so many books on devotional service that there's no counting them. Interesting also is that we're so book-centric in our sampradaya. We're the sampradaya of the book. I mean, look how Prabhupada starts this whole section is naming all the books that were written, and sheets back to Caitanya Mahāprabhu instructing the most intelligent devotees to write books so that it could be passed down more efficiently. What do you think? Yeah. Haribo. Everyone okay?
Yes.
Outside People's Party? All right. Okay, 43. Jiva Goswami, get ready. In Sri Bhagavata Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami has written conclusively about the ultimate end of devotional service. Purport. The Bhagavat Sandarbha is also known as Sat Sandarbha. In the first part called Tattva Sandarbha, it is proved that Srimad Bhagavatam is the most authoritative evidence directly pointing to the absolute truth. The second Sandarbha, called Bhagavata Sandarbha, draws a distinction between impersonal Brahman and localized Paramatma, and describes the spiritual world and the domination of the mode of goodness, devoid of contamination, by the other 2 material modes. In other words, there is a vivid description of the transcendental position known as Shuddha Sattva. Material goodness is apt to be contaminated by the other 2 material qualities, ignorance and passion, but when one is situated in the Shuddha Sattva position, there's no chance for such contamination. It is a spiritual platform of pure goodness. The potency of the Supreme Lord and the living entity is also described. And there is a description of the inconceivable energies and varieties of energies of the Lord. The potencies are divided into categories: internal, external, personal, marginal, and so forth. There are also discussions of the eternality of deity worship, the omnipotence of the deity, his all-pervasiveness, his giving shelter to everyone, his subtle and gross potencies, his personal manifestations, his expressions of form, quality and pastimes, his transcendental position, and his complete form. It is also stated that everything pertaining to the Absolute has the same potency, and that the spiritual world, the associates in the spiritual world, and the threefold energies of the Lord in the spiritual world are all transcendental. There are further discussions concerning the difference between the impersonal Brahman and the personality of Godhead. The fullness of the personality of Godhead, the objective of all Vedic knowledge, the personal potencies of the Lord, and the personality of Godhead as the original author of Vedic knowledge. The third Sandarbha is called Paramatma Sandarbha. And in this book, there is a description of Paramatma, the super self, and an explanation of how the super soul exists in millions and millions of living entities. There are discussions of the differences between the qualitative incarnations and discourses concerning the living entities, Maya, the material world, the theory of transformation, the illusory energy, the sameness of this world and the supersoul, and the truth about this material world. In this connection, the opinions of Sridhar Swami are given. It is stated that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although devoid of material qualities, superintends all material activities. There is also discussion of how the Leela avatar incarnations will respond to the desires of the devotees, and how the Supreme Personality of Godhead is characterized by 6 opulences. Does everybody know how the Leela avatar incarnations will respond to your desires? Well, we know from the Shri Upanishad that he's been fulfilling everyone's desires since the time immemorial, right? Okay, well, maybe we'll have an extended meeting and read the Sandarbhas. You just have to call in sick. It's bona fide. Sanatana Goswami did it first. The fourth Sandarbha is called the Kṛṣṇa Sandarbha, and in this book, Krishna is proved to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These are discussions of Krishna's pastimes and qualities, his superintendence of the Purusha avatars, and so forth. The opinions of Sridhar Swami are corroborated. In each and every scripture, the supremacy of Krishna is stressed. Baladev Sankarsana and other expansions of Krishna are emanations of Mahasankarsana. All the incarnations and expansions exist simultaneously in the body of Krishna, who is described as two-handed. There are also descriptions of the Goloka planet, Vrindavan, the eternal place of Krishna, the identity of Goloka and Vrindavan, the Yadavas and the cowherd boys, both eternal associates of Krishna. The equality of the manifest and unmanifested pastimes, Sri Krishna's manifestation in Gokula, the queens of Dwarka as expansions of the internal potency, and superior to them, the super excellent gopis. There is also a list of the gopis' names and a discussion of the topmost position of Srimati Radharani. The fifth Sandarbha is called Bhakti Sandarbha. And in this book, there is a discussion of how devotional service can be directly executed and how such service can be adjusted, either directly or indirectly. There is a discussion of the knowledge of all kinds of scriptures, the establishment of the Vedic institution of Varnashrama, bhakti, as superior to fruitive activity, and so forth. It is also stated that without devotional service, even a brahmana is condemned. There are discussions of the process of karma tyaga, the giving of the results of karma to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the practices of mystic yoga and philosophical speculation, which are deprecated as simply hard labor. Worship of the demigods is discouraged, and worship of a Vaishnava is considered exalted. No respect is given to the non-devotees. There are discussions of how one can be liberated even in this life, Jivan Mukta. Lord Shiva as a devotee, and how a bhakta and his devotional service are eternally existing. It is stated that through bhakti one can attain all success because bhakti is transcendental to the material qualities. There is a discussion of how the self is manifest through bhakti. There is also a discussion of the self's bliss, as well as how bhakti, even imperfectly executed, enables one to attain the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unmotivated devotional service is highly praised, and an explanation is given of how each devotee can achieve the platform of unmotivated service by association with other devotees. There is a discussion of the differences between the Mahabhagavata and the ordinary devotee, the symptoms of philosophical speculation, the symptoms of self-worship, or ahangropopasana, the symptoms of devotional service, the symptoms of imaginary perfection. Imaginary perfection. The acceptance of regulative principles, service to the spiritual master, the Mahabhagavata, liberated devotee, and service to him. Service to Vaishnavas in general, the principles of hearing, chanting, remembering, serving the lotus feet of the Lord. Offenses in worship, offensive effects, prayers, engaging oneself as an eternal servant of the Lord, making friendships with the Lord, and surrendering everything for his pleasure. There is also a discussion of raganuga bhakti, spontaneous love of Godhead, of the specific purpose of becoming a devotee of Lord Krishna, and a comparative study of other perfectional stages. The sixth sandarbha is called Priti Sandarbha, a thesis on love of Godhead. Here it is stated that through love of Godhead, one becomes perfectly liberated and attains the highest goal of life. A distinction is made between the liberated condition of the personalist and that of an impersonalist. And there is a discussion of liberation during one's lifetime as distinguished from liberation from material bondage. Of all kinds of liberation, liberation in loving service to the Lord is described as the most exalted, and meeting the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face is shown to be the highest perfection of life. Immediate liberation is contrasted with liberation by a gradual process. Both realization of Brahman and meeting with the Supreme Personality of Godhead are described as liberation within one's lifetime, but meeting with the Supreme Personality of Godhead both internally and externally is shown to be super excellent, above the transcendental realization of the Brahman effulgence. There is a comparative study of liberation as Salokya, Samipya, and Sarupya. Samipya is better than Salokya. Devotional service is considered to be liberation with greater facilities, and there is a discussion of how to obtain it. There are also discussions of the transcendental state one achieves after attaining the devotional platform, which is the exact position of love of Godhead. The marginal symptoms of transcendental love and how it is awakened, the distinction between so-called love and transcendental love on the platform of love of Godhead, and different types of humors and mellows enjoyed in relishing the lusty affairs of the gopis, which are different from mundane affairs, which in turn are symbolical representations of pure love for Krishna. There's also discussions of bhakti mixed with philosophical speculation, the super excellence of the love of the gopis, the difference between opulent devotional service and loving devotional service, the exalted position of the residents of Gokula, the progressively exalted position of the friends of Krishna, the Gopas and the Gopis in parental love with Krishna, and finally the super excellence of the love of the Gopis and that of Srimati Radharani. There's also a discussion of how spiritual feelings can be present when one simply imitates them, and how such mellows are far superior to ordinary mellows of mundane love. And there are descriptions of different ecstasies, the awakening of ecstasy, transcendental qualities, the distinction of dhirodhata, the utmost attractiveness of conjugal love, the ecstatic features, the permanent ecstatic features, the mellows divided in 5, transcendental features of direct loving service and indirect loving service, considered in 7 divisions. Finally, there is a discussion of overlapping of different rasas, and there are discussions of shanta, neutrality, servitorship, taking shelter, parental love, conjugal love, direct transcendental enjoyment, and enjoyment in separation, previous attraction, and the glories of Srimati Radharani. Okay, let's have some reflections, questions, remarks. Yes. Microphone goes to the door.
What is the meaning of the word dhiro data?
Dhiro data is out of the different descriptions of Krishna's personality. There, dhiro data, dhiro lalita. Look them up. Just find them where they are. So they describe how he interacts with different devotees in different moods, different sides to his personality. We'll give you the exact definition of dhiro data in a second. Other questions, reports?
Found it interesting. Proper writes about imitating the feelings is also good.
Imitating the feelings is also good.
But normally we hear that imitation is sahajiya, right? So here he I didn't understand what he meant, but
Well, we have to see by context also exactly what he's talking about in that way. But nonetheless, there are several statements Prabhupada makes about sahajas, and some of them are positive. I mean, semi-positive, because they encourage people that, well, at least they're doing that. Like, for instance, when they do Shri Krishna Caitanya, what is it? Radhe Shyam, Shri Radha Govinda, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Japa, Shri Radha Govinda. And he said at least they're saying the name of Lord Nityananda, and therefore tears come to their eyes and so forth. But we can look in the Satsandarbha and find out about imitative. Make a list of all the research projects. Who's making the list? Yeah. You got it, or I have it here? Okay, you go ahead. Yeah.
So there's 4 personality types which Krishna has: Dhirodatta, Dhiralalita, Dhira Prashant, and Dhirodatta. So Dhirodatta is a person who is naturally very grave, gentle, forgiving, merciful, determined, humble, highly qualified, chivalrous, and physically attractive. Whereas Dhiralalita, he is naturally very funny, always in full youthfulness, expert in joking, and free from all anxieties. Dhira Prashanta is a person who is very peaceful, forbearing, considerate, and obliging, is called Dhira Prashanta. And Dhirodhanta is a person who is very envious, proud, easily angered, restless, and complacent. There's more elaborate descriptions, but I'm...
Well, just on your time off, if you have any, just get an example for each one of those.
They're mentioned right here.
Okay, go ahead.
First one, Dhirodhata, they accept this as Lord Ramachandra as the example.
Okay.
The next one is Dhiralalita is Krishna. Example is Krishna. And then Dhira Prashanta is Maharaj Yudhisthira.
Mm.
And Dhirodhata is looks like Mahavishnu.
There are also descriptions that relate to Krishna's leelas. So he's all of these four also, although it gives a prototype from archetypal. Prototype. Yes.
Hello, Hare Krishna. Yeah. Okay. I thought one interesting point was it was describing that Jiva Goswami was editing the commentary by Srila Sanatana Goswami, and it continued on 30 years after it was the first commentary was finished, and that even after Sanatana Goswami had left, then Jiva Goswami was still editing his commentary. I thought that was an interesting point.
Yeah.
Previously,
They worked in consort. 1, 2.
We have someone out here who would like to say something.
Please go ahead from outside.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. In text 35 it was mentioned that some of the books compiled by Srila Sanatana Goswami. So what does that mean when they say compiled? And the verse 41 says some of the books were written by Srila Rupa Goswami. What is the difference between compiling and writing?
Okay. 35?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm in the wrong chapter. Well, for instance, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the Hari Bhakti Vilas is a kind of a compilation in a sense that Caitanya Mahāprabhu ordered Sanatana Goswami to compile the various Vaishnava practices into one book. That's more of a compilation. And then there are books, for instance, from Rupa Goswami, like the Lalita Madhava and Vidagdha Madhava, that you could put under the category of writings flowing from their unique insight as being eternal associates. Prabhu, is there anybody else from outside?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, we had
There's
Akshobhya and Achintya.
in text 144, there's a long purport, and there's a section in the purport which says the bhakti, even imperfectly executed, enables one to attain the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then it goes on further. There's a few other things mentioned in the purport. Then Prabhupada mentions difference between opulent devotional service and loving devotional service. This morning's class, I caught a bit of the class. At the end, you're mentioning King Bahulashva and Shrutadev and how Krishna reciprocated, even though on their own level they did the best they could. So in the material world, there's no really any perfect service we can offer. Can you talk a bit more about the science of how, what is that Krishna is accepting? How is it that we know we are doing our best individually for the Lord?
Well, Prabhupada explains that if you appreciate and render service to those who are dear to Krishna, then Krishna will be very accepting. And therefore, we follow the footsteps of Prahlāda Mahārāja, who even in his prayers to Lord Nṛsiṃhadeva, who's present before him, says that first I worship my spiritual master, I serve him. And that's the mood of those who are in the disciplic line, is they consider themselves dāsa-dās-dāsa-anudāsah. Caitanya Mahāprabhu liked that verse so much, he chanted it during the Ratha Yātrā in front of Lord Jagannāth. And so, Prabhupada said, love me, love my dog. If you meet somebody like we did the other day in Gurugrām, we met a man whose name was Siddhārth, and he was walking his dog. And I said, that's a nice dog. And the dog was happy, he licked me. And the man was happy because I liked his dog. And then he took it. So when we please somebody who's dear to the Lord, or we get the positive glance of somebody who's dear to the Lord, then the Lord considers us. For instance, when Nalakuvara and Manigriva misbehaved, Narada gave them shelter by cursing them. And then they took birth as twin Arjun trees. But he said, when Krishna comes for his pastimes, this was unscripted because he just uttered it himself, Krishna will liberate you. And so Krishna remembers during the pastime of Damodar Leela, when he's dragging the churning apparatus, whatever it's called, the mortar, the grinding mortar, he said, oh yeah, my devotee Narada said that these two will be liberated, so I'm going to go take a little shortcut, or I'll take the long way around and pull down the trees and liberate them. And his specific thought was, because Narada said it. So we go by that principle, is that we try, as Prabhupada said, the more you're the servant, 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 a million times removed, he said that is perfection. Akshobhya, and then we'll come back to Devavrata, who will continue that thought.
One quick reflection and question.
Hold that mic
the
exactly in
question-
front of your mouth.
The reflection is on the qualities that one develops, and we have rock stars like Sanatan Goswami, Rupa Goswami, and Jiva Goswami. The extent of their commentaries is very difficult for someone who's just setting out to grasp.
Who's what?
It's very difficult for someone like
To
setting
grasp.
out to grasp completely
Uh-huh.
their realization. But I was just reflecting on Bhagavad Gita this morning while japa, in chapter 12, verse 13 to 20. The qualities that come automatically by devotional service was something that I could see in them. Like by the way you described, or the purports mentioned, their wonderful achievements, far superior than any Nobel Prize or anything else. So that was the reflection. The other thing was on Smaran, because there's so much that they've done in terms of Smaran. But my level of Smaran is just still the Bhagavad Gita, whereas their level goes on to much more esoteric sort of topics. So how does one follow, of course, the BGSB and CC method? But obviously the purports give us enough. Is that what we should do and not jump to other things?
Yeah, Prabhupada said regarding hearing matter, at first assimilate what you have. That's what we're doing here. And if anybody thinks they've given a deep dive into the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, you may think again once you start reading it, because you realize there's so much here in the first chapter. I could write a PhD thesis on any one of these verses, or 10 of the points that are in the verses. So it is a good idea. And we also see that Prabhupada gives a survey of everything that's out there in the Vaishnava canon. So we don't feel left out if we're into Prabhupada's books. Prabhupada also liked it when devotees specialized in a certain book. He said you should know something about everything and everything about something. And especially when it came to reading his books, he recommended this to several devotees about really focus on this book or that book. Like Tredas Prabhu, Prabhupada specifically told him you should memorize the Krishna book. So he's spent most of his life doing that. And other people, I'm trying to remember another one, he told others, to go deeply within certain books. Yeah. Prabhu?
Just going back to Achintya Chaitanya Prabhu's point regarding imitation, I think I found what Prabhupada is referring to in Priti Sandarbha. I'll just read it. After the pastimes, those pastimes which they had experienced remained within them by absorption in prema in order to pass the time. This was the cause of their imitating his pastimes. Their imitation of his pastimes cannot be called pastimes, since they consisted of his infant pastimes, which were not part of Ujjvala Rasa. When the gopis with their friends imitated actions with bhavas of Putana, contrary to Priti itself, and bhavas of Yashoda, contrary to Ujjvala Rasa, they did this artificially to nourish their own bhava for destroying the time during separation, not to experience those bhavas. So it looks like And it goes on extensively. It looks like imitation is referring to out of ecstasy,
Yeah,
Krishna's pastimes being imitating.
that's it. Thank you very much. That's very helpful. Okay, one last thing and then we'll take a break, otherwise known as the Gayatri break.
Now we were talking about the importance of books.
Yes?
And it's interesting how Srila Prabhupada, in his preface to Nectar of Instruction, he enters Narottam Das Thakur's song right in the beginning. He says, Rupa Raghunatha Pade Aibe Akuti.
Can't hear. Where's
Hare
our
Krishna.
sound engineer?
Hare Krishna.
There.
Can you hear?
Yeah. Is that better?
Okay. It's
Yeah.
interesting how in the preface to the Nectar of Instruction, right in the beginning, first paragraph, after a few lines, Srila Prabhupada renders Srila Narottam Das Thakur's song, Rupa Raghunatha Pade Haibe Akuti, Kabe Hama Bujabe Se Yugala Priti. He says, when I am eager to understand the literature given by the Goswamis, then I shall be able to understand the transcendental loving affairs of Radha and Krishna. So, to understand the transcendental loving affairs of Radha and Krishna, we have to be eager to understand the literature given by the Goswamis. So,
Yes.
the importance of literature, not just going to Radha Kund or doing all these other kinds of things, but to develop the eagerness to understand the books that they've given.
Panchagoda asked the question in class yesterday. He said, why not just chant Hare Krishna? Why do we have to learn all this stuff? He was saying it, that's a kind of hypothetical from somebody else asking this. And I quoted the verse that Prabhupada often quotes in this context, which is from the first canto, second chapter, 12th verse. Tashchadadhana munayo jnana vairagya yuktaya pashantyatmani chatmanam bhakta shruta grihitaya. And there it is mentioned that perfect bhakti is fortified by knowledge and detachment. And Prabhupada there describes how if one doesn't become serious about the Goswami literatures, those which are given, then the devotional service becomes farcical. You have to invest yourself in hearing and understanding. And the same idea is there in the Harinam Chintamani, as through the pen of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Haridas Thakur is saying, you have to cultivate sambandha jnana along with chanting. That brings us to the Gayatri break. So right now is 12:06, and we'll come back here at 12:21. Vanchakalpadruscha kripasanabheva patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo Gaur Premanande Haribol. See it.